All right, good morning, Westgate. Like Hattie said, my name is Jada Zimmerman, and I'm also a senior at Warwick High School. Many of you might know me as Pat and Tina's daughter. My dad was just up here speaking, so yeah, I've been coming to Westgate for my entire life, and specifically to the youth group here, Elevate, for the past 4 years. And I started coming to this church before I could even walk or talk, but now, I don't just come here because my parents tell me to or because my parents have brought me here, but it's a place that I really love, and the people here are some of my closest friends. And I know that my faith would not be where it's at today if it wasn't for the people here, and specifically the youth group who has kept me accountable. And what I would like to speak to you about today is honoring God, like you can see up there, and like Hattie was sharing about, but specifically how that's looked in my life. And I am specifically focusing on honoring God when things are a little bit easier, when you're not going through maybe a big trial in your life. But the Bible tells us that we're to honor God, and it tells us that we're supposed to love Him with all of our heart, soul, and mind. And that's something that we've probably all heard many times. And we kind of just were like, oh, yeah, God, I love you. But as I kind of reflected on that, I was kind of like, well, what does that really look like in my own life? And how do we show that to God? And what it just really looks like. Um, the definition of honor is respect. And so as I was kind of just reflecting on what it looks like to honor God, I noticed that it's really just to respect God. And I kind of like this analogy of just like think of somebody who you respect, maybe a parent, close friend. And how do you treat that person that you respect? How do you communicate with them? And I think it really comes down to communication and listening to them and listening to what they have to say. And it's not something that just goes in one ear and out the other, but you take it into account for your life and you apply it to your life. Oftentimes, when I think of people who have a close relationship with the Lord, I think of somebody who might have a crazy testimony or a big come to Jesus moment, something big that they can tell everyone, and everybody's like, whoa, that's so cool. But when I think about my own life, there's not anything necessarily specific, some like huge moment that I can point to. I have known Jesus my entire life, and I've come to Westgate here. I gave my life to the Lord at a very young age, and I know He's been by me through everything and just through life. And I'm grateful to say that I haven't really dealt with anxiety or depression or a ton of super hard things in my life. I have a very, very loving and supportive family. I know my family has always been praying for me, specifically my grandparents and my parents as well. And that's definitely had a very strong impact on my life. I've had it pretty easy, but I need to remember that I need God just as much as people going through hard times. We all need God. And sometimes when life is easy, we can kind of just go through the motions, just kind of do our own thing, kind of, push God to the back, kind of just be like, oh, it's fine. I'm just going through life. Sometimes we just forget to pick up our Bible or to pray. And I've kind of experienced that in my own life, but I know that that's wrong, that I do need God, and I can't just push Him away. I can't just, kind of do my own thing. And we can't honor God if we're not communicating with Him daily. That parent, that friend, that person you're really close to, when they come up and they try to talk to you, you're not like, okay, bye, no, not talking to you. No, you look at them and you have that conversation with them, or when they call you on the phone, you don't just look at it and be like, oh, I don't want to talk to them. No, you answer it. Well, maybe you do. Just hang up. Just don't answer it. But no, chances are you answer it and you listen to what they have to say, and you care because you respect them. And the thing is, when we respect God, when we want to honor God, we can't ignore Him. And so many times, I know I've not been listening to God in my own life. I've just kind of been doing my own thing. But to honor God, we can't just come to church on Sunday morning, can't just sit through the service, can't just be what the world calls a good person. But we need to take time out of our day, each and every day, and just sit before the Lord, listen to what he has to say, and just pray to him and just ask God what he wants you to do. And in James 4, James is speaking to the 12 tribes scattered among the nations, and he's kind of talking about how they're making plans without the Lord. And this is what he says. He says, "Now listen, you who say, today or tomorrow, we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. Why? You do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogant schemes. All such boasting is evil." But how many times are we like the Israelite people? Are we just making our own plans, not really thinking about God, just kind of doing whatever? We make human plans. We come up with things that are maybe good ideas. Maybe it's a great idea, but sometimes we jump on it without asking the Lord first. And just because it's a good idea doesn't mean that it's necessarily what the Lord has for you. And so it's important to just take it before the Lord and pray about it. And maybe he will tell you, yes, that's what you're supposed to do, and then you can go ahead with it. But he'll also maybe say no, or maybe he'll say not right now. And it's important that we listen to that, because he says in Isaiah 55, 8 and 9, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." And oftentimes in life, I can kind of make my own plans and just decide what I'm going to do with my day. But when it comes down to it, when I'm just kind of doing whatever, going through the motions, it seems so pointless. I mean, I'm a senior in high school. I have just over a month left. And this January, I plan to go on a DTS, a discipleship training school through YWAM, and I'm going to be going to Montana, and I am so excited. I really think it's going to be an amazing time. But as of right now, I don't really have plans of going to college, of, going to school after I come back. And so that means that this last month that I have in high school could be the last time I'm sitting in a classroom taking tests and quizzes and doing homework. And I've thought about it, and if I really wanted to, I could just not complete another assignment for the rest of the year, and I could graduate. It would be fine, I don't really have to do it, do I? It's not like I'm going to college, so I don't really need these grades, Would it really matter? I could just go through the motions, graduate, move on with life, move to the next thing. And in school, it can be so easy to get in a bad mood, to just complain, that's what everyone else is pretty much doing. You can just, this teacher is so annoying. They keep making us do this work, doing this and that. Oh, that classmate, oh my word, they need to stop getting on my nerves. It's so annoying. But God quickly reminded me that's not the way I'm supposed to be viewing this situation. That I can't just, go through the motions, do whatever, do my own thing. But my plan was kind of just finish high school, move on. But God said, no, I placed you in Warwick for a reason. I placed you in this school with these people for a reason. A lot of these people that I've spent the past 4, 6, and even 12 years with, they're people that I will probably not see again when I walk across that stage and get my diploma. I'll say goodbye, and I might not see any of them ever again. I have the chance every single day to be different, to be somebody that they notice is different, that I'm not just like everyone else, just doing whatever. God's given me the ability to show Jesus to them through my attitude and the way I choose to do everything to the best of my ability, because I can choose what I do to glorify the Lord. I can do it not just because it's what somebody tells me to do, but because I have God in me, and He is giving me the ability to do it to the best of my ability. And Galatians 2:20 says, I've been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. Christ lives in me. I have the living God inside of me, and many of you do too. You just need to accept it. When you accept him into your heart, you have him. And so I can show the people around me Jesus because of that. And I don't know about you, but that definitely does not sound pointless. So James 4:13 and 16 was about people making plans without the Lord. But what James says next in verse 17 really stuck out to me. And that's, if anyone then knows the good they ought to do and does not do it, it is sin for them. Maybe you've asked God about a plan in your life, or, God's been telling you to do something and you kind of just don't do it. Maybe you're pushing it off. And maybe it's something simple like encouraging somebody that's going through a hard time, or going and praying for somebody that you just feel like you're supposed to pray for. And we can make excuses, someone else will do it. Someone else can pray for them. I don't really have words that'll really matter that much, those kinds of things. But those are lies. And there's been times that I know I could have been doing things in my life that I've chosen not to do just because I didn't really feel like it, or I was just afraid of what somebody might say. But God tells us that that's sin. And, a lot of times we think of sin as, all these bad things that we can be doing. But God also says that when you don't do good, that's a sin. And Jesus also speaks about action in the parable of the two sons in Matthew 21. It says, "What do you think? There was a man who had two sons. He went to the first and said, 'Son, go and work today in the vineyard.' 'I will not,' he answered. But later he changed his mind and went. Then the father went to the other son and said the same thing. He answered, 'I will, sir,' but he did not go. Which of the two sons did what his fathers wanted?" "The first," they answered. It can be so easy to say that we're going to do something. Maybe somebody asked you to take out the trash or do the dishes or something, and you can be like, "Oh, yeah, I'll do it." But do we actually do it? Hopefully you do. And so maybe you're at the Send. I know a lot of us were at the Send, and it's, a big missions event. We all come together. We say, "Yeah, Lord, we'll go." We take off our shoes. We hold them above our heads, and we're like, "God, send me." And it can be so easy to do that. It's easy to take off your shoes and pick them up and hold them above your head. But are you really going where God's been calling you to go? Maybe you're not called to be a missionary halfway across the world. Probably most of us aren't. But we can still be reflecting Jesus each and every day to the people around us, to our coworkers or neighbors, the people we're in school with. I came across this parable about a month ago, and it really convicted me. And as I reflected on it, I kind of realized that I've been limiting God in my own life. I've been kind of putting him in a box, because I know I've been called to reach people in my school. There's a prayer meeting that we do about twice a month. A group of us go and we pray with some of the district staff at our school. And I also lead the Fellowship of Christian Athletes Club at my school too. And these are good things. But I've kind of been like, "Oh, God, I'm doing it. I'm going to my school, See, look, I'm praying twice a month, I'm praying with these people, praying for people in my school to know you. I lead this club, and it's all for you, Lord." But he's saying, those things are great. I love that you do those things, and I don't want you to stop. But he's also saying, look at your attitude, the way you act in school. Not everybody sees you praying every morning. Not everybody comes to that club in the morning, but everybody sees you when you sit in class, the things you say, the things you do, the way you act, the way you talk to your friends. And, those students, they see me and they might not know the Lord, and I might not have a direct conversation with them and telling them about the Lord, but they can see me as somebody different than everyone else. Are they seeing me as somebody who has a positive attitude, who's encouraging the people around them and doing everything to their best ability? Or are they seeing me as just another person in the school complaining, just another person just doing whatever and just getting through the day? When we choose to honor God and we maintain a close relationship with Him, it gives us purpose. It reminds us that what we do, we don't do for ourselves, but we do it to glorify the Lord. But also choosing to honor God prepares us for when we do go through those hard trials, because we live in a broken world. Not everything's going to be perfect. It's not always going to be easy. But in Ephesians 6, God talks about the armor of God, and it says, "Finally, be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power. Put on the full armor of God, so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after all you have done, to stand." We're told to put on the armor of God, and if you have Jesus, you have the armor of God readily accessible to you. There's nothing that you have to do to earn it. You just have to choose to put it on. And we put it on by praying, by speaking with the Lord, by listening to what He has to say, and by reading His word and applying it to our lives. We can speak the word of God over ourselves. We can speak the truth over ourselves, and that prepares us. And like verse 13 says, "When the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after you have done everything, to stand." We can't fight the enemy on our own. We can't do it on our own, but we need Jesus, and we can choose to honor Him each and every day. And when we do that, we're preparing ourselves for when the hard times come, that we can choose to stand by God. We can choose to have hope in those situations because we already know the truth of who He is and what He promises to do in our lives. So a lot of what I shared is from the perspective of a high school student. I am a high school student, but it's not just for kids in school. It's for each of us when we go to work every single day, or maybe you're home with your kids, or you're just with your family. You can choose to do what you're doing to honor the Lord. And you can have an attitude that points people towards the Lord. Instead of being negative or being down about what you're doing, you can do it to the best of your ability, because you can choose to do what you're doing to glorify the Lord. Honoring God isn't just lip service, but it's by our actions. And we can't just act based on the way we feel, but we need to act to glorify the Lord and to choose Him over what we feel. That's all I have. And now I would like to invite Ellis back up here for a closing.